Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mount Shasta Weekly Zohar Study Group. I'm very glad to see you here tonight, live from Mount Shasta. And tonight we're going to study a portion of Shmini, which we studied last week, but today actually we're doing a second study, because last week was Pesach, so today we're actually doing part 2. And in Pesach there was no portion, so I thought it would be a good idea to study that very powerful, very important portion of the Zohar. And kind of just to, I want to recap very quickly what the things that we spoke about last week. I want to just kind of go over it very, very quickly. It was a lot of information that we covered. First of all, about number 8. First of all, we know that, kind of I'm recapping the things that we discussed last week. The number 8, when we study in Kabbalah, we know that there's three very central numbers in Kabbalah. There's the number 6, the number 7, and the number 8. And we know that those numbers are not just mathematical values, but also they have a certain spiritual meaning and significance, and that will bring us to what's the significance of number 8 and how that pertains to what we're going through right now energetically in our lives, in the universe, in the world, etc. So number 6, we know in Kabbalah, represents the world of what we call the world of physicality. That's why we know the story of Genesis. It said the world was created in 6 days. We know that these are not literally 6 days, but there's actually, it pertains to those 6 sephirot that are the foundation blocks of the system, what we call the system of the 7. So the 6 represents the world of physicality. Now the number 7 represents the world of spirituality within matter. That's why we have the complete system, what we call the system of the 7, which is Zeir Anpin, the upper 6, plus Malchut, which is together number 7. So what's the significance of number 8? Number 8 represents the world of spirituality. We know that the number 8 is also, if we count from Malchut, we go up 8 levels, we reach to the Sephirah of Binah. Binah is number 8 if we count from the bottom. What is the importance of Binah? Binah, we know in Kabbalah, Binah is the energy storehouse of the universe. And we spoke about it previously, that we have certain times throughout the year, what we call cosmic windows of time, also known as holidays, but there's no traditional celebrations, but actually there are windows of time to tap into certain energies. So we know that like days like Purim or Yom Kippur, we tap into Binah. But also we learn that by tapping into the energy of the Zohar and studying the Zohar, we actually can connect to the energy of Binah on a daily basis. It's sort of a very powerful portal for us to connect and draw energy from those upper realms. So that's about the number 8. We also spoke about that how the number 8 pertains to Pesach, because we went through Pesach, which ended yesterday. We know that Pesach is composed of 7 days, represents again the 7 Sephirot, but also the 8th day of Pesach is very, very important. We know that last night, at 4:30 a.m., not last night, on Sunday night, which was between the 7th and the 8th day of Pesach, there was a very, very powerful opening of opportunity of what we call energetic window of time, also known as the parting of the Red Sea. And you may ask yourself why that particular, what's the connection between the parting of the Red Sea to the 8th day. So the Red Sea, besides the fact that it was actually a real historical event, but we know that we're not here necessarily to focus on historical events, but we want to understand what does that pertain to us in our own lives. So parting of the Red Sea represents an opportunity for us to go above our own nature, to go above what we think is available in our reality, to go beyond what we think is the forces of nature. And we spoke about it many times that our first and most immediate way to overcome nature is to overcome our own nature. So whatever your personal Red Sea in your lifetime, this is your personal Red Sea. For example, if you're a person that you have, let's say you want to be a performer, but you have fear of going on stage and actually perform. So for you, going through the Red Sea is actually going to the stage and doing that performance on the stage. That's for you the Red Sea. So each and every one of us, we have our own challenge or quantum leap to do, because we're not going to go into the details of the parting of the Red Sea, but it's a very, very powerful there's a powerful window of opportunity, which actually we have each and every time of the year. But we know on this particular time of the month of Eres, we have extra support from the universe to do that breakthrough, to do that quantum leap. It's available. And this energy is still available this week. So this is what we're going to talking about it more deeply today, because it has to do also with our liberation from our own slavery. We talk about it many, many times. And today what I'm going to focus the class, I want to start the better half of the class. I'm going to talk about a very, very important article, essay that is written by the Rav Ashlag. The Rav Ashlag is the commentator of what you call the Baal Sulam. He's the commentator of the Zohar. And we have the merit to study those teachings of Rabbi Shimon with the translation of the Rav Ashlag. Now, besides of translating the Zohar, which we have right now in Hebrew, in English, Russian, Spanish, many other languages, the Rav Ashlag also wrote some very, very powerful essays and books. And there's one very important essay that I would like to start discussing today. It's called the Ma'amar Cherut, which means the essay on freedom. When we talk about the whole story of the Israelites going out of Egypt towards freedom or liberation, we always ask ourselves, what's in it for us? And we know we spoke about it previously, that Egypt means in Hebrew, Mitzrayim means a narrow place. So our own liberation from our own personal narrow place, which is in our mind. What is the narrow-mindedness that we want to break through? Each and every one of us, according to our own, what you call karma, education, social conditioning, etc. So the essay of freedom is very, very important essay to study. And of course, there couldn't be a better timing to talk about it than Pesach, which is all about going to freedom. So I want to start talking about that essay. The essay, it's in Hebrew originally, but also you can find it in English. It's called the Ma'amar Cherut, an essay of freedom by the Rav Ashlag. So I gathered the bullet points from the article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's very long, but I just want to talk about important bullet points that he covers in the article. And I'll start with the article. It begins with a very important question. First of all, it says that when we accept the Torah, because the Israelites on Mount Sinai, they accepted the Torah. We know Torah, it means guidance. It means instruction. Israel represents our connection to Source. So when we accept that guidance of Source, that's what the Ma'amar Cherut, it begins with that. It says when we're accepting that guidance, we are liberated from death. Okay, which may sound a very outrageous idea to many of us, because we know that there are two different things in this reality, is death and taxes. Okay, but the Zohar telling us that if we are accepting the Torah, we are freedom from the angel of death. Okay, so that's how it begins with that. Now we may ask ourselves, what's the connection between talking about freedom and that mentioning of the Israelites receiving of the Torah? So what's the connection? That's the first question. Now, the second question we have, if we received immortality, we know that the Israelites on Mount Sinai, our souls that are reincarnated on this planet right now, we were all there in one shape or form, in different embodiments, in different configuration of our, what we call spiritual work. But we were all there. And that event created a very powerful, what we call in Hebrew, reshimu, impression in the universe. So in that particular time, the Israelites received immortality. So the first question we ask about that is, if we received the immortality in Mount Sinai, how come it disappeared? Because obviously people are dying today, and death did not disappear. That's the question we want to ask ourselves. Now, the next question, which is we're going to study deeper today, is what is the meaning of freedom? What is really the meaning of freedom? I know that the term free will is a very, I would say, popular term that we talk about when we define our freedom. We say we have free will to choose. Or like the Rolling Stones were singing in the 60s, I'm free to do what I want any old time, right? That's kind of the song of the Rolling Stones. Is that really freedom? That's what we're going to ask this question. We're going to dissect that to small parts to really see what is the window of freedom we really have in our lives. Okay? It might shock some of us, it might sound very deep, but I think until each and every one of us, a human being, we don't ask the question about our own freedom, there's very little likelihood that we're actually living as liberated beings. We are the only creatures that actually can ask questions. Animals do not ask questions. Trees, minerals and rocks, they don't ask questions. Humans, we can ask questions. So I think asking that particular question about really understanding what is freedom and do we have freedom, that's what we want to talk about, okay? Now let's see what is the Rav Ashlag's definition of freedom, cherut in Hebrew. By the way, it says, at the beginning of this essay in Hebrew, it says, Aya charut ala luchot, which means it was engraved on the tablets. Charut means engraved, but it says, Al tomar charut, el tomar cherut. It means, do not say engraved, says liberated. And then he asks, liberate from what? Liberate from the angel of death. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So the Rav Ashlag's definition of freedom is, freedom means when a person can act according to his or her choice by their own free will. Let me repeat that. Freedom, according to Rav Ashlag, is when a person can act according to his or her choice by their own free will. Okay? There's a lot of different parts to that explanation about freedom. And then we can ask, we're going to actually dive deeper, what does it mean, our own choice? What are the choices we have, right? The next question, there's a lot of questions obviously, and we're going to answer all of them. Then Rav Ashlag asks, by essence, does everybody have the potential of freedom? By us being born as human beings, are we by potential all free beings? That's the question he asks. Is it given? Is it a universal attribute for all humans to be a free human being? Is that by nature who we are? So then next, the article talks about how we as human beings, there are two, what we call rails, like when you go up the stairs you have those rails, right?
Right.
Rails, that's the word. So rails. The Rav Ashlag explains that we are, by definition or by purpose as human beings, we were created with a certain purpose we call Adam. That's the source that created us with a certain purpose to live as a human being. We don't have choice with that. So let's start with that. We don't have a choice by our purpose. Okay? So when we are born as a human being, it means we are deprived of choosing whether we are actually a tree. I can act like a tree, I can stand all day, or I can act like a rock, I don't want to move anywhere. But it doesn't mean I'm changing my purpose. So we are already taking off one choice of choosing being a human being, because we are born by the merit of actually occupying the physical body of a human. The purpose of us is being a human. Now, we can act like animals, and we can do a lot of things that are not as human, but at the end of the day, and we're going to learn that we cannot change our purpose. It means when we are created as human beings, we have no choice already. So we are getting to a certain purpose. Now, how we get there, it's a different question. Okay? So, but the fact that you're already a human being, you already don't have that choice. You're already being born as a human being. Okay, let's start with that. Now,
Patrick says that freedom is full responsibility.
Of course, responsibility to what? To be a human being. Now, how we claim this responsibility?
What is human being? Let's ask that. Yeah.
Excellent note, Patrick. So, I'm going to repeat a few things we spoke about it previously in the class. A human being we call Adam. It does not pertain to a male or female. Adam, the creation of Adam comes from the word Adameh. Adameh means to resemble. Resemble what? Resemble the source that created us. So by essence, we are resembling, or we are molded after endless intelligence that created us. Now, Adam can also be Adama. Adama means earth. So if we are not resembling the source that created us, we can live more like close into the earth, like animals. But still does not change our purpose. We cannot change the purpose. We can choose how we get there. That's really what we're going to get there. Now, what the Rav Ashlag is teaching us, that in order for us to achieve that path of a human being, there are two rails to keep us on the track, not divert too much to the sides. And those two rails are pleasure and pain. Okay, so we have those two safeguards to keep us on the path. Okay, now according to Rav Ashlag, these are the safeguards that are created by Source to make sure we stay on the path and we live by up to our purpose as Adam, as a human being. So we can see here already we also don't have choice. Pleasure and pain are also part of our reality. You cannot choose live in this reality without pleasure or pain. Now, doesn't mean that we are avoiding or we can repressing those things that we feel. And some people say, like, I have a very high pain tolerance. Or some people can say, I'm very numb to pleasure. I'm not looking for pleasure. But this is not true, because by purpose, by creation, we're here to receive. Ratzon, which means the essence of a human being is the desire to receive. When you wake up in the morning, it means you already are waking, you are driven by a desire. That desire is seeking to fulfill something. And what is this thing to fulfill? Whatever makes you happy. So we cannot choose to live life without a desire to receive fulfillment and joy and happiness. Everybody wants to be happy. So we don't have a choice to be born a human, so we're humans. We don't have a choice to receive fulfillment. Now, as we see, there are many ways to receive the fulfillment. There is the path of the Torah, and there's the path of pain and suffering. How we get there, it's up to us, but we know there's a purpose. So we don't have a choice in this reality without, basically, we don't choose those attributes. They are part of our experience. Now, of course, what we learn in we already hinted at the beginning of the article, that when we embrace the path of Torah, which again means guidance and instruction, which is the guidance and the structure of the manufacturer, when we follow those instructions, we're more likely to achieve our purpose in a more pleasurable way. Now we're going to get more to see where we have actually the choice, what we can actually choose, where do we really have the free will. There's very little, as we're going to see actually, very little free will, but it's very important free will. Okay? There is we know that there is a basic law for creation that we, as the createes, if that's the right word, or those are being created by Source, when we are born with the desire to receive, okay? Whether you are a human, an animal, a mineral, or a plant, everything in this physical reality is based on the attribute of desire to receive. So a plant have a certain desire to receive, different from a human. So we are, because we resemble the Source that created us, we have the highest desire to receive by potential. How much we want and how much we desire, it depends on us. So we know it's a law. We did not choose that law. We have no free will in that regard. We cannot choose whether, I don't want to want anything. You cannot do anything about it. There is nothing for you to do about it. You are by nature designed to want. So no free will there too. Okay? We talk about desire to receive. And at the end of the day, we want to be happy, like we said. Okay? Being happy is really what makes us moving in this reality. We don't move a finger when we wake up in the morning without desiring something that makes us happy and avoiding things that makes us unhappy or avoiding pain. Okay? So we cultivate a mental faculty, or each and every one of us, to seek pleasures or fulfillment and avoid the pain. But this is also something that animals do, because we know that if you watch animals also have that natural attribute to seek pleasure. Now there's another layer to that both humans and animals share. A human can postpone pleasure by going through difficulty and uneasiness and even going through some pain, because they know that later on they're going to receive pleasure. If they postpone it, they may be. A good example is like if you go to the gym for 2 hours, you work really hard, you sweat, you flex muscles, you really push yourself to a limit, because at the end of the day you feel good after that. Also, you maybe receive some compliments, you have good dates, etc. So you invest certain time to go through pain because you receive pleasure. Okay? Now, moreover, that like we said, that both animals do that too. Animal also can postpone pleasure because they know if they invest the time they're going to receive the pleasure later on. So you can see certain animals, like they will do an ambush for a long time, like even a cold weather, because they are going to hunt something. So they're willing to do that because they know there's a reward at the end. It's also animals do that as well, not just humans. So it becomes, in other words, if we see how we operate, it becomes a matter of pure calculation, evaluating how much we invest in temporary discomfort or pain to attain pleasure later on. And there's always weighting one against the other, just like if you have spreadsheets of a business, you always weight how much you have income and how much you have expenses. And at the end of the day, you're looking at the balance sheet, you see how much you make. So we do the same thing in our mind. We always calculate, okay, how much I'm investing here, how much I'm getting, how much I have to put, and what makes us overall fulfilled is how much positive balance we have. Okay, so even if we, like Bill Gates, at the beginning of his career, he invested 10 years. He did not go to a vacation even once. For 10 years, he was sitting and writing code. He was building Microsoft for 10 years. He was willing to go through that pain for 10 years because he had a goal in his mind. He knew at the end of those 10 years, he would achieve something, which he did. So that's an example that he was a very well calculated, and it can be each and every one of us to a different extent in our lives. We're willing to do that. Okay, so there's always calculation between those two. And what makes us feel happy is, at the end of the day, how much fulfilled and how much happy we are. Okay? So we are all constantly managing such spreadsheets, basically balanced spreadsheets in our mind. And therefore we don't really have freedom to choose not to have pleasure. We cannot choose that. Okay, so we don't have free will not to have pleasure because we're by default driven by that, to have pleasure in our lives. And we can, again, we want to learn here what is the path to receive the right pleasure, the right fulfillment. Because, like we said, we have no choice. There is nobody's asking us in that regard. Now, if you will look and we evaluate pleasure that we mostly seek in our lives, we see that many of those pleasures are something that are programmed or dictated by society. Wherever you are on the planet, there are many different rules that society dictates how you should dress up, what you should eat, what you should not eat. I'm talking very generally. There's certain societies that if you're not dressing in a certain way, that you are basically you're not accepted in the society, or if you don't believe in a certain thing. There are certain communities you have to follow a certain belief system, otherwise you cannot live there. You have to eat, you have to dress in a certain way, you have to act in a certain way. And fashion, like a lot of people follow fashion, so a lot of people, they ask them, okay, why are you dressed like that? Because that's the fashion right now. And there are those who are dictating those trends in fashion, and people are following those trends because that's how they've been programmed. Okay, so there's also a matter of very deep programming that some people don't even bother to question themselves. Are they really free choosing what are they dressing up? What are their preferences in clothing, in food? And moreover, what kind of thoughts they're choosing? What are they asking themselves? And what kind of opinions they create? Today, because we live also the age of social media, there's constant bombardment of content. And a lot of people, to one degree or the other, we cultivate filters about reality. What is the reality? Because we keep seeing certain things. Like if you follow Alex Jones, for example, the Prison Planet, and people that constantly talk about how a planet, we're going to a war. They have all this advertising for bunkers, canned food, military weapon, all kind of those things, which are very real. So a lot of people, they live in that reality. They think that we're going towards the end of the world. For them, that's the real thing because they have been programmed to think like that. Okay? Some people believe in that. Some people believe in different things. Some people believe Jesus is going to come and he's going to save the world. Some people believe that Buddha is going to come. Some people say it's Muhammad. There are different beliefs. I'm not saying one is wrong, one is right, but you can see there are mental conditionings that we are exposed by our environments. Physical environments and also what we call today the virtual environment. Anybody have questions, comments, observations online? No? Okay.
Patrick says choice is not freedom to go to the supermarket to do do you have a choice of freedom or freedom?
What?
I don't understand.
Okay.
It's kind of not.
Okay.
It's okay. Later.
So we can conclude based on the things that we discussed so far that we don't have a freedom to want. Okay? The basic freedom to want, we don't have it because by default we're wanting beings. I know it sounds maybe a little bit of a confusing philosophical question. But you can say, yeah, I have freedom to choose, but you don't have freedom to want or not want. By nature or by default, we're designed to want something. Okay? So that's the first conclusion we're getting there. Now let's look at let's take a look at a few things in our lives that we are actually, nobody's asking us. There's basically things that are imposed on us. The first thing is to breathe, right? Nobody's asking you to breathe. If you are born and you live in this body, whether you want or not, you're breathing, or the breathing breathes through you. Okay, now there's very few, very high yogi masters, actually they reach a level of samadhi that they actually don't breathe. But also, that's very rare, but also they don't necessarily maintain present in this physical reality. So let's agree that when we are in this physical body, nobody's asking us. Something is breathing us. That's one thing. Second thing is digestion. Nobody's asking you, it just, the food is digesting itself through your body. The same thing with your heartbeat. The heartbeat beats through you. You know, nobody's asking you, excuse me, may we beat your heart? It's simply going through you. Okay? The other thing is we don't choose our thoughts. Like, you don't know what's going to be the next thought is going to come to you. You have no idea. The only thing you can do, you can choose whether you accept that thought or not accept that thought. And we're going to learn that what faculties we can develop to attract higher level of quality of thought. But you don't know what thought is going to come to you, so you have no freedom to choose your thoughts. You can only choose how you're going to react to them. Okay? And we can also fine-tune our awareness to make sure we're attracting certain quality of thoughts. And we also develop the faculty to be aware of thoughts that we know they are not necessarily positive for our spiritual growth. We understand, okay, this thought maybe in the past, I was not aware of that thought, but now it comes to me by complete automatic mode, and I say, okay, right now this thought, thank you, it's like a guest comes to your house. You cannot choose the guest that will knock on your door, but you can choose who's going to enter your house. So we don't choose your thoughts. No freedom there. Now, we also don't have much freedom. The fact that our body needs to rest. Okay, that's kind of a default thing. We don't have freedom for the desire for food. I know, again, some people are breatharian, so they overcame certain level of humanity, but most people, we need food, okay? And the same with water. Now, we all need love. That's also part of us. There is no choice by being a human being, or almost pretty much any sentient being, by the need for love, okay? So you cannot say, I don't need love. It's part of what our mechanism is designed by. The other three more important thing is the need for fulfillment, okay? To achieve fulfillment in our life, again, you have no free will, but to achieve, you won't have the desire to achieve fulfillment. We're designed this way. And nobody, again, ask a person whether you like the design of your body. Like, your body is designed with a certain order, with a certain intelligence. Nobody is asking you whether the lung should be in a certain place, or maybe you should move the lung somewhere else. Okay, there's a divine plan. And again, like we said earlier, the need to achieve pleasure, it's embedded in us, in humanity. So, like we see that a lot of things that we think we have freedom, we're getting to a point to realize there's a very little window of what we understand freedom is in our lives. And I'm getting to a point, I'm not here trying to shake in any spiritual foundations for people, or to question our freedom. There's a point to that, so I'm going to get there. Now, the essence of the human mind, that we cannot accept the idea that we don't have freedom. Now, if I tell you, okay, you don't have freedom, there's a providence, there's a divine providence that is managing, like we say, is managing your heartbeat, your digestion. That divine providence created your body. Nobody asked you that your body should be designed a certain way. You have a certain design of muscles, of bones, tissue, etc. Nobody asked you. It was not designed by you. So you might say there is no free will there. But by nature, we learn that the human being, we cannot accept the idea that we're not free. It's against our nature. Whatever ideas I'm gonna tell you, you still inside of you, you don't accept that you're not a free human being. That's also part of our nature. And that can bring some paradox, and we're going to see how we bridge that paradox. So, now according to, we have two main kind of philosophies in this reality. One is the religious or spiritual philosophy, and one is the nature or science philosophy. Now, if you follow the religious philosophy or wisdom or teaching, there is providence, there's a divine providence, what we call source, God, universe, there's some kind of divine orchestration of things. And those that follow that teaching, they believe that this divine orchestration manages everything. There's some kind of a divine order that puts everything in place. So if you believe that, basically there is no reward and punishment, because if you're not in charge, there's something that orchestrates everything. So there is no idea of pleasure and pain. Everything is orchestrated already. Okay, so that's one idea. The second one is if we follow the teaching of the science. Now, according to science, that believe that nature is that force that is in charge of everything that happens in this reality, what they call nature. Okay, that's what they call the system of the seven in Kabbalah, the Elohim. So if nature is in charge, or what we call force majeure in legal terms, if that is so then who can we trust? So then you ask, okay, who can we trust? Some people say, I trust myself, but then we ask, what is the self? Who is the I that you trust? Okay, so that's another perception about that force, whether it's a divine force or that's the forces of nature, what we can measure with scientific instruments. Okay? So let's continue. Then the Rav Ashlag moves into explaining a very interesting law. It's called the law of causality. Causality is from the word cause, the law of cause and effect. So the words of causality, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly.
I don't know.
Causality. So that law, according to that law, each and every one of us, we feel like a separate sovereign entity. Like I said earlier, we cannot accept the fact, even if whatever your background is, our innermost intuition or feeling as a human being that we are sovereign beings. That each and every one of us are special, and there is the I, okay, that ego. Now, so the first question is, who is the I, like we said earlier, and why do we feel separated from the rest? What's the need for us to be separate from the rest? Because we wake up in the morning, we look at the mirror, we recognize a certain separated being from the rest, okay? Now this is the essence of selfishness, but what we're going to see is that selfishness is not a bad thing, because selfishness, as we're going to see also, it's a part of the design, that we don't choose the separation of the individuality. Like in other words, you can wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I don't feel individual, I feel one with the universe, okay? Now certain individuals can reach that level, but let's say most of us as human beings, we don't have that freedom to say, I'm one with the whole. It's part of our nature to feel separated, to identify a certain I which is separate from the whole.
Even though we know that we are not separated.
Some people don't think like that. Some people say, no, I'm not, they're not separate. Like if you ask atheists, you ask them, what do you think? He said, no, I created myself. I heard people say, I created myself.
Well, yeah, that's different.
That's argument some people use. So that's the I is not a bad thing, but we need to understand that we don't have the free will in that regard. Okay, we are by default identifying a certain separateness from the whole. And again, it's not a bad thing if you know how to use it for the purpose of attaining liberation. Okay? So all of our wants are filtered through this I. Okay, when you wake up in the morning, whatever you identify as your I, your desire is based on the I. Okay? Now, it is an automatic thing, and we have no much of a free choice in that regard. So the more or the less we understand what is the I, the less of free will we have in our reality. So if you identify yourself as a certain age, a certain gender, certain religion, different labels that people like to put on themselves or they are programmed to use, the more of those we use, the less free will we have. Okay? So if we want to understand why it is so, we need to look for the cause. In other words, if you understand that you are, let's say you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, you see a certain reflection of yourself. If you really want to understand who is the I, what is the I, you want to go behind, you want to see what is the cause that created the I. I want to explain what it means. So, what is the cause that created this embodiment, and what is the cause that made me believe in the separation? There's a cause behind that. That's what we want to ask ourselves. We want to understand the cause. It's not a cause that we can measure with scientific instruments. It can only be clothed in physicality, in our physical appearance, or in the flowers and everything we see in physicality. But we want to go to the cause, what's behind it. Okay? Now, example. There's a table here. Okay? Or there's a board. There's a board standing here. Now, this board did not suddenly appear here. Okay? Somebody put this board here, and somebody, if you go backwards, this board was bought somewhere, and if you go even backwards, somebody designed and somebody sold this board. So there's a cause behind the cause. Everything there's a cause. Nothing appears in the physical reality by coincidence. There's always a cause. Even a flower has been created with a certain, there's a cause behind it. Like science, we look at the flower and say, yeah, I know why there's a stem, why there are certain petals, why we need water, etc. But science can only reach to a point, and again, I'm not talking about all scientists, because some scientists, they start to ask questions. What is the cause that they actually thought about flower? For what's the reason? There's a much higher level of asking questions, but there's always cause behind everything. Nothing is in physical reality without a cause. Okay? So, the same applies in our psyche. As human beings, not just we know that the heart, there's a cause why the heart is pumping blood, the liver, etc. There's a reason for everything. The cause is the reason. The same thing with our mind, or with our nefesh, or with our subconscious mind. Now, we can't say that the I suddenly appeared. Okay, so the I, there's a cause behind the I. That's what I'm saying when I'm talking about explaining things. There's a cause. When we measure things in physicality, but also in spirituality, the I emerged out of a cause. We want to understand what's that cause, what formed the I. Okay? And again, nothing like we know, whether it's inwards or outwards, is without a cause, without a reason. So the conclusion, if everything have a cause, we have no free will. Does it make sense?
In this kind of, the things you described, yes.
Well, everything have a cause. So, if I have a cause, okay, let's put the focus on ourselves, human beings. If there is a cause why we have skin, we have hair, why we have eyebrows, why we have eyelash, there's a cause for everything. Sure. The design of the human body is perfected by reasoning, which we don't understand, but there is cause behind everything. If that's so, if that's true with our physicality, that's also true with our inner world. All our wants, our individuality also have a cause. Now if you go back, like, okay, I have a body. Why I have a body? Because I need to have a physical embodiment in physical reality. Now if you go backwards for everything, you come back to a cause that is beyond you. Everything is beyond you, so basically we have no free will. Okay? We're gonna stay, but still we're gonna find there is a solution, so don't get alarmed. Don't get upset on me that I'm actually taking away your freedom. I just want to take you to a different kind of a mindset, to ask different kinds of questions, and to understand that there is a very high cause that is operating behind the scenes of this reality. It's important to understand that there's a cause for everything. When you understand the cause, then we become tuned with Source.
Well, if we go to the small things, like I'm choosing to eat today, or I'm choosing to go shopping today, right?
Yes.
I'm choosing to take a shower, I'm choosing to come to the class today. So I did choose today to come to the Zohar class. I could say, no, I'm not coming. So there are small kind of, things that I feel like I'm choosing.
Yes.
I think I'm choosing. But I understand that there is a bigger cause that allow me to guides me.
Yes, there's a cause behind the cause behind the cause behind the cause.
So when you talk about this, it goes so high, it's even not belong to this third dimensional reality.
Exactly.
Because in third dimensional reality, we think we choose everything. That's the illusion. But I do agree when we're talking about beyond I don't know, 7th dimension, maybe 8th, 10th, more. It goes high. So it's important to mention that. Because some people will say, but I have choice. I'm
Excuse me,
choosing
continue.
every moment.
I'll be right back. I need to go to the... No, continue talk. I'll be right back.
Who am I going to talk with?
Yes,
Okay. No, we have people here. We have students. Well, yeah. So, yeah, I just want to make sure that we understand that this conversation is not about third-dimensional reality. Not the small things we choose in daily. Food, love, work. So, yeah.
I'm back. Excuse me, guys. I had a little tea before the class. All right. So
I just wanted to finish that sentence. I mean,
yes, please.
as we know, we as a souls had a desire to come to this physical reality, right? So the question is, did we really choose?
Well, let me ask you this: did you choose to be created as a soul? Who decided to create you as a soul?
I don't know yet.
Well,
That's what I'm studying.
As we're going to see, there is a certain level that we can perceive, with our intelligence. We can understand some things, but there's things that are beyond our intelligence. But we can go. The whole point of the Zohar that we can go to a certain level that we call the system of the seven, to Zeil and Pin. We can understand a certain logic. Like, for example, can you understand why you have hair on the head? Why you not have hair like in a certain configuration? Like why you have 5 fingers? Can you understand why you have 5 fingers? What's the intelligence that is in charge designing? We cannot understand that. Like if you go, you buy a vase in the shop, you can understand the logic that created this vase. There's some thought behind the functionality of the vase, right? It's glass, etc. But we are not in a place to understand why our body is designed a certain way. We have no idea. We don't.
We do have a desire to understand, to learn that.
But let's focus. It's not a bad thing to have, but I think we want to focus on to really understand desires that are attainable to us. It's right now. It's not really relevant to understand why we have 5 fingers. Why we are we can understand. We can get to that point later on. But right now we want to more understand about really the essence of our freedom.
It's just the same that I don't understand how my car is working. I'm really, really happy that it's working.
Yes.
I'm not really going to the details who created and why this certain part being created.
Yeah. That's what's called emunah. It's called faith. Like faith is a very diluted word for emunah because emunah, it means believe and faith, but also it means emun, means trust. Like, you trust your body that is breathing, even if you don't think about it, you still trust that your lungs are working. Like, you trust that your heart is still pumping, you don't have to think about it. There's some level of trust. But there are levels of trust that we want to attain with Source when we align ourselves. That's the whole purpose of learn here. But I know that maybe right now some people became like very alert, like how can you say we don't have free will? Because like we understand everything have a cause. If you go back to the cause, like you say, I choose whether I'm gonna eat ice cream or choose, but you did not choose to have a digestive system, so that's why you're eating, right? Mm-hmm. You're eating because you have the digestive system, and I choose to have shower, because you have a body and you wanna maintain hygiene, and if you wanna go to be around people, you want to clean yourself. Mm-hmm. So there's different things that we think we choose. But when you go back to the cause of causes of everything, the cause of causes is completely out of our hands.
Yeah.
But so within that framework, we're going to learn what is really our freedom. Okay? Not to discourage anybody. There's good news.
Sure,
Yeah?
because most of the people, they don't really want to know how their body is working, because they are such a simple daily things that they are using, they are living. So it's just, some people can say, I don't care how my body is being created. What I care, how much money I'm making, or what I'm going to do tomorrow. So.
But we're going to see that even those choices that people think that they think they're free to choose, like we said, there are a lot of programming involved. Like when people say, like, I don't want to care about my body, I don't want to care about this or that, there's many different factors that people don't understand. They work behind the scenes, and they think they're choosing, but the choices are choosing them. And that's what we want to, in studying of Kabbalah, you're encouraged to ask questions about everything. Question everything. Yeah. Okay? Because only when you ask questions, you can move forward and you can progress on better understanding of this so-called physical reality, what we call the 1% reality in Kabbalah. We want to understand what stands behind this reality. That's what we want to ask of. So, the conclusion of what we have been discussing, so what time is it, by the way?
It's 8:45.
8:45, okay. So, if we have no free will or free choice or freedom to choose, why are we here for? Okay, nobody asks you, like we said, about all the different things, so why we're here for? If you have no choice we have no freedom to choose, why are we here? For what purpose? Now, if everything is in our lives is already rooted in an earlier cause, or what we call providence or force majeure, whatever you believe, then we're not the source of everything that takes place in our lives. So if we're not the source, why we're here? We're not the cause. On the other hand, we all have that deep sense of individuality, that I. Like, this is something that cannot be taken away from you. Doesn't matter where you are. If there's a prisoner in a cell for many years, the I does not disappear. That sense of individuality is within them. So there's a paradox here. It looks a paradox, and the answer is, how do we bridge between what we believe we have freedom, but what we see there's an upper force? The only way to bridge it is through the emunah. The emunah, the belief or the trust or the certainty that there's something higher. Don't necessarily we understand how it works, but having that emunah that it exists, that's the whole point of the Torah is about. The guidance, the instructions. Now in each of them, like when we now Rav Ashlag goes deeper and explains how things move about in creation, this reality. We know that when we talk about the 4 seasons, for example, the 4 seasons we have in the year, they talk about 4 steps. 4 steps of what? 4 steps of development. Now those 4 steps of development are attributes for everything that is happening in this reality. And I want to explain what I mean. So there are 4 different points that Rav Ashlag is talking about. I'll write them down because they're very important. The first one is called the matzah. Not matzah, we eat matzah im ein. Matzah means the source. Okay? What lies behind everything. The source is the matzah. Like we said, that source is not something we perceive with our I'm going to explain that a little bit deeper, but that source is not something we perceive with physical instruments. We cannot see that. But the way it expresses itself, it clothes itself in physical reality is through physical things. But the source is not something perceivable. Now the second one, in Hebrew it's called Gorem v'nimshach mitzad atzmo, which means cause and effect that stem from the one self. I'm going to explain what it means. Okay? Cause and effect from the one self. I'm going to make it shorter. Cause and effect that stem for the noise from oneself. I'm going to explain everything.
Can you move the flowers back there, please?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So that's number 2. Number 3 in Hebrew is Gorem v'nimshach pnimim, which means internal cause and effect. And I'm going to explain everything. Internal cause and effect. Cause and effect. And number 4 in Hebrew is גורם ונמשך של דברים זרים הפועלים עליו מבחוץ, which means external things that operates on a person from the outside, or foreign things, foreign influence, okay? External cause and effect. Cause and effect. Now let's explain what those mean. And by the way, those 4 steps also what we attribute to the name of Yud K Vav K. That's the Yud, that's the Matzah, that's the source for everything. That's the Yud, that's the Hey. Sorry for the handwriting, it's not very very pretty, but that's the Yud K, that's the Vav, that's the Hey. That's the tetragrammaton. Okay? Yud K, Vav K. So, what is source? There is nothing in this reality, like we said, which did not exist before. Okay? Everything we have in this reality existed before. Even if you look at water, water can precipitate in a liquid form and becomes gas or becomes steam, can become ice, etc. Now, this is the source of everything is the cause of all causes. Like when we track everything back to the cause, there's cause of all causes. Okay? Now, this is the primal essence which reclothed itself in new form. Like when we say the human being was created, there's a cause that clothed itself in the form of a human being. So, the cause of a human being is not human being. The clothing is a human being, but the cause that clothed itself as a human being is not a human being.
Yes.
Okay? That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Not makes sense, but it's, yeah, that's
Okay.
the
So we cannot perceive that cause of that source without form. We need some kind of form so we can perceive it. And even if we don't see that, we know it exists. Okay? That's what we call emunah. So that's the matzah, that's the source. Now what is number 2? It's the cause and effect that stems from the oneself. Like if you take a stalk of wheat and you put it in the ground, and then what happens, it starts to disintegrate into the ground. The wheat disintegrates. So what happens, even if it disintegrates, after some time, the wheat will grow again out of that seed. Okay? The seed is its own source. Basically what I'm saying is, it's going to regrow and it's going to become still a wheat. It's not going to grow and to become a giraffe. That seed is the wheat. So that's what it means, is a cause and effect that stems from the oneself. Okay? Now, if it can change appearance, like let's say before the wheat that grew it was 2 feet, now if we plant it, it disintegrates into the ground, it will grow again, maybe it's going to be now 4 feet. It's still wheat, it's not changeable. I want to explain how that pertains to us as human beings. Now the third one is what we call the internal cause and effect. What they call in Hebrew, gorem v'nimshach apnimiyim. And this is the attribute which causes the same thing to evolve into something better or worse. So let's say we plant tomato, okay? So, or wheat, if it disintegrates in the ground, it grows again, it's still wheat. Now the third aspect is basically the same thing that it evolves. So it's the same thing, whether it's a plant, it's a tomato, whatever it is, but it evolves into something better or worse, okay? So let's say we put that particular plant in the ground, we put some minerals, we put some nourishments, and then it grows to be a much, much higher quality of a plant. We put something that changes the inner attributes. Okay? Now, in humans, is basically, let's say you are connecting to other people, and you want to go some kind of a spiritual development thing, or progress, or course. You put yourself around certain people, and by inner influence from these people, you are developing, you are becoming more advanced. You learn new ideas, you learn new thoughts. Ideally, if you study some Zohar and Kabbalah, that's the whole purpose of that, so we can improve our inner nourishment, so we can grow out of that. So that's the third attribute, is the internal cause and effect. Okay? The fourth one is what we call in Hebrew גורם ונמשך מדברים הזרים בחוץ, which means cause and effect from external or foreign things from the outside. So these are the foreign external forces which do not stimulate the inner potential of the subject matter, of the person, or whatever it is. For example, if you have wheat, there is wind that blows on the wheat, or there's some kind of a hail that's falling. It does not change the quality of the wheat, does not change the inner attributes. And if you compare the same thing to the physicality, let's say you're changing your clothes, you go to some place and you put different kind of clothes, does not change your inner attributes. You're still inside who you are. So that's what we call the fourth, the level, which are the external things. It's also called what we call, if you take an orange, for example, there is a shell, klipa, that protects the fruit. So that shell protects the fruit, so it's still a shell. It's only external, but it has a purpose. So these are all four different embodiments of development in this reality. So like we know, if we compare to a human being, that's the source that created, clothed itself a human being. So when we are human beings, when we live our lives, we can be in a certain level. Okay, now we can change certain attributes of us to a certain level. We can become from that, and we're going to explain what are those attributes, because this is the whole key of this article. What are those attributes that we can cultivate that makes us progress? So most of our work is number 2 and 3. We need number 4. We need that external thing. We need that nice room. We need those nice car or whatever physical things. But these are all only the external things. But really the real work is number 2 and 3 with the connection to the source. I'm going to explain more deeper what it means. Now Rav Ashlag talks about the different attributes that are affecting us, what we call the source. When we are born into this reality, in this physical body, what are the different factors that are given from our young age when we are born into this physical reality? So the first one, he talks about heredity material, like what we receive from in our genes, so to speak. Now, those things that we receive in our heredity material, these are not only physical things, like the fact that I have brown eyes, like my mother, she has brown eyes, my father have brown eyes. But some people, they are, let's say, they are born with blue eyes, but the parents have both brown eyes. So what happens is, they had within them a certain dormant, what we call DNA, but have dormant quality that has been not expressed until it came through me. That's physical aspect. The same thing with the shape of the body, color of the hair, those are physical things. But there are also things that have to do with our soul, that have to do with our psychology, with our tendencies. And what we are basically an accumulation of desires and wants, conscious and unconscious, of our parents, that are expressed when we're born, when we come into this reality. So this is something, again, we have no choice. We are receiving them. What we do with them, that's when we're going to start to have the choice. We're going to see how we go about that.
As it talks about DNA or something else?
Well, there is DNA, but again, like if you study the teachings of Bruce Lipton, for example, about DNA, we can reprogram our DNA.
That's why I'm asking.
We can, yeah. When we come into this reality with some set of DNA, it's a given. There is no choice there. Okay, you are born into this family with those set of genes. You have no choice, but actually, when we are born, that's what you get. What you do with that, this is really what's the question.
So I do have a free choice to change it.
You have a choice to change, but there's a way to do it. There's a way how to do it. Of course there's a choice, yeah. So a newborn human being carries with him or her both the external and inner attributes from their both parents. And I'm not talking about the parents, but it's the parents' parents and the parents. It goes many generations. Like there is a lot of there's different cultures that carry some, like in Jewish culture, for example, what they call, there's like the Holocaust. There's something that has to do with the Holocaust.
Holocaust syndrome.
Holocaust syndrome that has been carried through many generations.
Right.
It's a real thing because it's so deeply embedded in the subconscious mind that it's been carried through many generations. And when people are born into this family or this lineage, if you're not aware of those things, it becomes very destructive force in their lives. If you don't understand, suddenly there's a fear that there's not going to be enough food, or some fear there's going to be a war, or a fear to be exterminated. Those are real things. But what you do with them It's really the question, and how to go about that. Okay? So understand that there are certain forces that are already built in within us, physical and mental. And there is these inner tendencies we receive from our parents. They reside in the brain in a place called the medulla oblongata, the medulla oblongata. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, or what we call the subconscious mind, or the elongated brain, which is in the back of our brain. Yeah. So that place stores subconscious thoughts, ideas that are not necessarily we created them, they are given to us. What we do with them and how we go about, like we said, to develop them, that depends on us.
Okay. However, it's many times hidden from us.
Yes.
So first of all, the awareness that it exists, and the awareness to go there and check and heal that.
And take a look what's going on. Yeah.
Because when we know that we have subconscious mind, and it's like a storage, so many things stored there. So yeah, we have to choose to go there and heal that, or see what's happening.
To heal, to take a look, to evaluate, to ask questions. Because a lot of things that we think that we are making choice in our lives, they're actually things that have been passed to us from our parents and from their lineage.
Yes.
And we can stop that by making some adjustments.
Well, yeah, awareness.
If we choose to. That's when we start to implement certain level of freedom. What we do with that. Exactly. And then what we pass to our children. And the second one is if this is the first one is the source, that this is the physical and the mental material that we were born. That's the cause of who we are. So the next level is the influence of the environment. That's where we are starting to get into the
more
core.
Physical.
Not just physical, but the influence of the environment. So the physical of the environment, it is the growth environment which reveals the inner attributes of the human that inherited those attributes. In other words, when we grow like the wheat in the ground, okay, it's going to grow into what has been already programmed into that material. Right. So whatever you received is going to grow into that. You have no free will. So if you receive those genes that are active and they're expressing themselves to have brown hair, brown eyes, etc., certain skin tone, etc., these are being expressed. The same thing with mental things that has been actually coming into expression. Okay, that's coming as a result of your environment. Now, if you received, for example, some very traumatic genes from the Holocaust, and you live you are born into an abusive family, those attributes are going to be more expressed. And again, why it's happening, it's a different discussion because we're not talking about reincarnations. There's a reason why we're born into a certain family that are pushing certain trigger buttons to awaken certain things, because that's the work we need to do, but I'm not getting into there. What I'm getting into, that when we're born with those influences, they're all within us. They're part of our construction, what we're made of. How we go about develop them, that's a whole different question.
However, when we know that we choose our family, right, parents, etc., so we purposely choose this kind of experience as a source.
Yes and no. Yes, you choose them, but if you know that you have work to do, let's say you have to do some work about trusting parents, so you have no choice but choosing. If you want to complete your progress as a human being, you know that you have a certain stations to go through. So you have no much choice but to choose this reality. You have to do it eventually to achieve your perfection, because like we say, we're created a certain way, and we have a certain lineage and certain karmic record that we are here to master, to perfect. So when you are born into this family, you're choosing them because you know that this is what's going to give you that particular refinement to your soul or to your progress. So there is a choice, but there is no choice, because you know that you need to do the work. You know? So the third level is how those attributes are developed, good or bad. So if you are born with certain attributes, so let's say your father was very stingy person, very, very stingy. So you might find yourself also being very stingy. Now, you can become like your father, you can be very stingy, or you can take that quality and you become like you use it in a positive way. In other words, you're not wasting your energy in a certain way. You realize that your energy is very precious. So you can take that quality, you can give it a good attribute. That's how you develop it. How you work with that is a different thing. Like I know that I inherited from my father the tendency to do art. So how I go about with that art, it depends on me. So there's many different things, and again, you might know your parents, you might not know your parents. It's really not the point. The point is to recognize those kochot, those forces that operate within you, and do the best you can with them. It's very important to recognize those forces. So the third one is how we are developing those attributes.
When you inherited your love of art, let's say somebody else inherited something that they don't love, they don't want that gift they got from the parents, right?
Well,
so they have a choice to say, no, I don't want to do that, right?
They don't. If you call it a gift, obviously you appreciate that. If they don't see that as a gift, they're not going to act upon it. So it depends what is your level of appreciation to what you perceive within yourself. So people, they have certain beautiful voice and they see it as a gift. So they go about, they become singers. Some people, maybe they don't. So there's many different ways to go about, but this is sort of like the package you are born. And what you do with that is really what the whole development that we're discussing. That's where the free will becomes our merit to exercise the most important thing that we're going to talk here, which is the environment. That's what we get into, choosing our environment. Now the fourth one is the external forces or the external factors. So these are what endows an individual to clothe and reveal his inner attributes in the developed or undeveloped form. So when we talk about those, we develop certain inner attributes. So let's say you develop skills as a singer. So now you need a physical environment where you can express those abilities. But let's say you live in a monastery where everybody are silent, and you want to be a singer, or you want to be a wrestler like in the Nacho Libre, right? So you want to go outside of the monastery, you have to be in a place where you can express your tendency to be a wrestler, right? It's a great example. It's a funny movie, but it's like you have to choose an environment when those inner attributes can be expressed. It's very important that's when it becomes so critical to understand that it's not about developing your inner attributes, but you need a physical framework to express them. Okay? So that's the thing. So conclusion, our free will is by choosing our environment. Physical environment, social circles, social media, what we expose ourselves, what books we read, what news we read, what films we watch, etc. So this is what I'm going to go up until today about the whole thing with the article of Essay on Freedom. Next week we're going to talk more, we understand deeper the attributes of choosing the environments wisely. What are the attributes? So this is what I want to talk about today about that article. So anybody have questions, comments, or observations so far?
No.
I hope I did justice explaining the Rav Ashlag, because it's very deep. His writing is very deep. It's been translated into English. I was really doing my best. I hope it will give justice to
you. Explain your way.
Sure.
He's teaching, but your way.
I hope it makes sense. So.
Well, yeah, maybe for some people not, but it's
okay. Great. So let's go to the Zohar and
you planted the seed. Let's say. Like
yes.
That.
Excellent. I planted the cause. We have a cause right now to ask questions.
Exactly.
The bottom line about the whole thing about freedom, as we saw, the main point that the Rav Ashlag makes, but the things that we spoke about, our only freedom is to choose where we put ourselves in this reality for the purpose of development, from the understanding of our connection to Source, and for the sake of expressing those things. This is only our free will. Okay? So when you say, yeah, free will to go and eat today at McDonald's, not eating at Whole Foods or whatever, it's not really freedom, because if you go back to the cause that operates behind you, you don't have free will there. But you have the free will to choose whether are you connecting to that intelligence using the manual called the Torah to attain that alignment with the Source. Then you can have the free will, but we don't have the free will to choose our purpose.
Most of the people will argue with you. They would say, yes, I'm choosing to eat McDonald's.
Yeah,
right?
but did you choose to have a digestive system?
No.
So who's choosing who?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not agree with that either, because they're not choosing going to McDonald's. Their stomach or their
Parasites.
Or just habit.
Habit is a very big word.
habit.
I'm not going to get into this thing of the habit because this is our biggest enemy.
Yes.
Of a person who wants to develop, to realize their habits and to question the habits. Whether the person goes to work 9 to 5, they come back home, they watch TV, drink the beer, or whatever people do from out of the habit, because they saw it at home, maybe they saw it on television, maybe they read about it. There's so many different factors. And unless we really question those things, then we can, once we start to question, we can really claim our really freedom to choose where we put ourselves, to what to expose ourselves to receive that divine providence. Because that providence wants to reach us. But if we don't choose to be exposed to that, so where's the freedom, right?
Well, the laziness, this is the enemy. Laziness
or...
The laziness doesn't allow us to change the habit.
Laziness and fear too, and fear. Yeah. So what time is it now?
It's 9:10.
Okay, let's go to the Zohar. So I'm going to continue from last week to read from the portion of Shmini, number 8. תחזה כל עינון דמשתדלי באורייתא, מתדבקין בי בקודשא בריחו, ומתעטרי ביתרי דאורייתא, והתרחימו לעילה ותתא, בקודשא בריחו הושיט לון ימיני קש עינון דמשתדלי באורייתא, נמי בליליה, והאו כמוה דינון משתתפי בשכינתא, והתחברו כחדה. וחד עתי צפרה, קודשא בריחו מעטר להו, בחד חוטא דחסד להשתמודעה, בין עילאין ותתאין. Translation. First of all, I want to read from the little bit from the synopsis. So this verse, it talks about how a human being was created by the Torah. Okay, what does it mean? We say that Torah means guidance, instruction. Human being was created by a certain manual, by certain intelligence. Rabbi Yitzchak says that the children of Israel are blessed because God gave them the Torah, and that man was created by the Torah. When we talk about children of Israel, it means those people, individuals that align themselves with creation. Like you can say, I don't align myself with the creation, does not change your purpose. When we say the children of Israel, Bnei Israel, Bnei comes from the word Ben, which comes from the word Bina. Those who have their realization or the understanding of the connection to source, they can understand the manual of what's the system of that mechanism of us creation. That's what it means, children of Israel, not the people who live in Israel or Israelites, etc. So verse number 8, where it talks about, come and behold, all those who study the Torah and cleave to the Holy One, blessed be He, are adorned with the crowns of the Torah and are beloved above and below. The Holy One, blessed be He, stretches out to them His right hand, which is chesed. Chesed means mercy. All the more so those who study the Torah at night also, as we have learned, that they are associated with the Shekhinah and are joined with her. When morning comes, the Holy One, blessed be He, winds a thread of grace around them to make them well known among the upper and the lower beings. So this verse explains the importance of connecting to the wisdom of the Torah. And again, unfortunately, people translate the Torah as the Old Testament. This is not the Old Testament. Torah, it's what we see, the written texts are on the superficial level. Or that the Zohar deciphers for us the meaning behind those stories or parables. So when we talk about studying the Torah, is to study what they mean, what those stories mean. There's a great video that one of the great teachers from Israel, Zamir Cohen, he made about the Matrix. And if you look at the Matrix and you never studied Kabbalah, it's a great movie. Nevertheless, it's an amazing movie. But he made a whole video that explaining all the Kabbalistic codes, because the Wachowski brothers, now they are sisters. I think they both changed their gender.
One of them.
I think now the second one too.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, the Wachowskis, they studied Kabbalah, and they built their entire movie on the codes that they learn in the Kabbalah. So again, you can look at the Torah, and I'm not going to get, there's so much stuff like the letters, the world is made of letters, etc. The name Neo means one. Agent Smith from the Samech Mem, the Sitra Achra, etc. There's all codes in that movie. But the same thing with the Torah. If you don't know the codes, it's maybe a nice collection of stories. Like when I was a kid, I was drawn to the stories. But when you see that everything have a meaning and there's something behind it, when you reveal and you go back to the cause or the source, that's when the real things start to unveil for ourselves, to see what's behind.
Yeah. We grew up, unfortunately, to just learn the Torah the way it is and take these stories the way it's happened, which is now we know it's not true. And it takes kind of courage to, to delete them.
Yeah, it takes courage and takes determination too.
Yes.
Absolutely. So when we know that not only study the Torah, it says study Torah at night. Why study Torah at night? Because we know that the world of physicality is called olam. Olam means from the word ne'elam, concealed. This physical reality is called the concealed reality. Why it's called concealed? Because the cause behind everything we see is concealed. We don't see the cause, we only see the physical manifestation behind the cause. Like you say, you see the flower, you don't see the cause of the flower, you only see the embodiment in the 1% reality. We don't see the 99% reality. Yeah.
Is it a storm again?
Some wind going outside. Yeah. I hope it's not raining again.
Not again.
So when we talk about study at night, because the night is the concealment of the concealment. In the daytime, we see things with light because the light reflects on objects. So what we know it's called the concealed reality is actually illuminated by the light of the sun. But at night, it's called the concealment of the concealment. So that's why studying Zohar at night is very, very powerful. What happens is you reveal very, very powerful light. We know that the Zohar is not an intellectual, it's not intellectual wisdom. It's a book of, it have energy with it. Some call it magic, but it's very powerful energy. And when we study that at night, the Zohar says that we are basically aligning ourselves with some kind of like a thread of energy using that, what we call technology or wisdom. It's not just an intellectual thing. And it's an incredible blessing for us to have, and the Zohar is definitely speaking. When we understand that technology, we can use that to draw even more light or more energy to ourselves, even to reprogram. But if you study Kabbalah for some time, and you look at yourself, like who you were after some time or before you studied, you're a completely different person. I can speak for myself as well. Yeah. You don't think the same thoughts. You see things in a different way. You have different intuitions. Their reality completely shifts. Because the whole purpose is to give us the tools to see beyond the physical reality, to align us up more with the cause or with the source. That's the whole point of it. So that's what it means that the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, are created, they know that created with the Torah, because they align themselves with this understanding. Anybody have questions online, comments, observation? No? All right. Let's move to verse number 24. כך ישראל מסתרה דימינה, כעתיין ולה יתדבקו בשמאלה ולה יתערבו בעדה לעלמין, וחד אינון גרמין בחובייהו, דאית כפיה ימינה, ויתער שמאלה, וכל אינון דעתו מסתרי. איחד מישראל קם להתערבה בעדייהו, ישתמודען בי, אמרי לאליו, אנט מינון דקה עתיין מסתרה דימינה, דאית כפיה מחובייהו, ולאו אנט מינון דחבו למלכה, מן יהבך לגבן. השתכח דאיהו התענש בקדמתה, ושלמה מלכה צבח לקבלייהו, ואמר את אשר שלט האדם באדם לרע לו ודאי, בגין דלאו שליחה דמלכה איהו, ולעתי מהו סתרה. Translation. So Israel come from the right side and never cleave or mingle with the left. When the wicked subdue the right by their sins, and the left and all those who come from it are awakened to punish them, then if one of Israel from the right tries to situate himself among them, they recognize him and say to him, "Are you not one of those who come from the right side, who is subdued because of the sins of the wicked? Are you not one of those who have sinned against the king? Who allowed you to come among us?" So he is punished first. King Solomon cried to them, "There is a time when a man rules over another to his own hurt." To his own hurt, assuredly, because he is not the messenger of the king, and does not come from that side, namely from the left. What the Zohar explained to us is the importance of realizing what is our what we are committed to. In terms of left and right, you know that when we talk about the wicked, it's what we call the people that have the desire only for the self alone, the evil. Ra in Hebrew is ratzon atzmi. So when we talk about the right side, it associated with the term of the priests, or those who are embodying this reality, the power of mercy and compassion. So if you call yourself a light worker or somebody who is aligned with the purpose of creation, of bring goodness into this reality, you cannot mix yourself with those who associate themselves with what they call the dark forces. You have to know, you have to associate yourself with the right, what you're aligned with. So it also talks about here about the importance of knowing where you are, because even if you are a very elevated human being and you feel yourself very spiritual, kind, and benevolent human being, but if you live among people who are very wicked, it's very likely that you are going to attract some of that energy to yourself. So that has to do with what we spoke earlier. You have to be very mindful where you live. What is your environment? Who you associate yourself with?
Who are your friends?
Who are your friends and who you take advices from? Your mentors, your spiritual teachers, your guru, etc. That's a very, very powerful reminder. Let's move to verse number 29. כיוון דהי שבעה, אשלים להו לכהני ואעתר לון ומשך לון בחולה, קדמתו לכי. דאיהי תמינאה, התפקד אהרון לקרבה עגל, בגין דאיהו ברי דפרה לכפרה, על ההוא חובה דעגל אחרה דעבד אהרון. וחב לגבי פרה, דאיהי תמינאה, שלימו דאמוני ישראל. והשתכח כהנה, שלים בחולה. בתמניה מיני לבושין דיקר, שלים בכל כתרין, שלים לעילה, שלים לטאטה. Translation: Those 7 which are bina with the 6 days included within, as it is mentioned above, were perfected and adorned and anointed by the priests in everything. When they reached the congregation of Israel, which is Malchut, being the 8th day, which comes after the 7 days, Bina Chesed Gvura Tiferet Netzach Hod Yesod, Aaron was ordered to offer a calf. I'm not talking about animal sacrifice here. It's about we are offering to sacrifice the animal attributes within us, okay? Which is the son of the cow, which alludes to Malchut, physicality. This was to atone for the sin of the other calf whom Aaron created, thereby sinning against the cow, which means Malchut. It's a code name for Malchut. And which is the 8th day of those 7 days mentioned above, for she is called the peaceable and faithful in Israel. Then the priest is considered complete in all, in the 8 different vestments of glory, complete in all those sephirot above and below. When we talk about the priest, each and every one of us are the priest of our reality. How we become priests? We associate ourselves with the right column, which means we're doing more good in this reality for others than just for ourselves, the left column. It doesn't mean we just give. We also have to balance with receiving for ourselves. But being the source, the priest in this reality, that we draw this energy to this world by embodying this quality in our lives and how we treat other people, how we treat everybody else in this reality. Animals, absolutely. So we talk about sacrificing the animal. It's not about we go and kill an animal. It means that we're sacrificing the animal, the beast within us. That's what it talks about.
Unfortunately, certain people, they still sacrifice animals.
Unfortunately, very unfortunately, and I say that many times before, and you agree with me. Some other people maybe agree or disagree, but the whole idea of animal sacrifices is no more relevant to our times. These were different times of killing animals. We don't live in those times anymore. Definitely, we're not. There is no need to kill an animal to attain a spiritual mastery. The only thing that the Zohar talks about in sacrificing animals is to sacrifice the animal within us. That's the whole point that we're talking about. There is no need of...
I pray that more people will understand.
Amen.
If it's rabbis or priests and Christians, Jews, and more.
Yeah. So let's go to verse number 61 and until 66. This is some very powerful things here. יין ושחר אל תשת אתה ובניך איתך וגומר, אמר רבי יהודה, מגופר פרשתה, דע שם אינן דנדב ואביהו רבי חמרה, הבוא. מאזדהר לכהני בה, רבי חייא פתח ויין ישמח לבב אנוש וגומר. אי באי כהנה למחדי ולהשתכחה בניהו דאנפין יתיר מקולה, אמי אסיר לי חמרה, דה חידו בי אשתכח נהירו דאנפין בי אשתכח. Do not drink wine or strong drink, neither you nor your sons with you. Rabbi Yehuda said that from this chapter we learn that Nadav and Abihu were under the influence of wine from the fact that the priests were warned about it. Nadav and Abihu, as we learned last week, they were the sons of Aaron. They went to perform a certain spiritual practice. They were intoxicated and they died because they were not. The revealed manager was too powerful for them because they were intoxicated. They could not discern their actions very well. Rabbi Chia cites that the verse, and wine that makes glad the heart of man, from Tehillim. He asks, if the priest is required to be glad and smiling more than any other man, why is he forbidden wine which creates joy and smiles? Let's continue. אלא שירותה דחמרת חדוותה, סופי הציוו, ועוד דיין מסתרה דלבאי התה, מאתר דחמרה שרי. דהאורייתא וחמרה דאורייתא, מסתרה דגבורה הוא, וסתרה דכהנה מיין צלילין נהירין. Translation. He answers, wine makes one joyful at first and saddens later. And like my teacher likes to say, hi and bye. And the priest must be glad all the time. All the more with the wine that comes from the side of the Levites, from the place in which the wine abides, the left column. Namely from the left, for the Torah and her wine are the side of the Gvura, and the side of the priest is that of the shining water, which is Chesed. So we have the two forces. We have left column, which is wine, and right column, which is water. In other words, what he's telling us is that, first of all, if we're advised, if we want to maintain what we call priesthood in our lives, which means certain alignment with intelligence or embodiment of intelligence in this reality, we're advised not to get intoxicated. That's one thing. Why? Because intoxication gives us an illusionary source of fulfillment. Like if we say, oh, I drink because I do this intoxication, whatever source, because that makes me happy, it only makes me happy for the duration of what I'm doing. And the more we do, the body creates tolerance. So the more we become dependent on that. So which brings us to the understanding that we have to be the source of our own joy. Mm-hmm. If we depend on what we call the middleman to be joyful, to be happy, this is our Red Sea to get across. If until now we were dependent I need to smoke that, to drink that, to whatever we thought that's our fulfillment, that's our middleman. This is our Red Sea to cross, to part, to go through that. And the Zohar is giving us the tools, the wisdom and the energy to connect to that. And again, if you go back to what we spoke previously about choosing our environment, we can be in certain environments that actually encourage people to intoxicate themselves because of the illusion of being happy. And we want to be very, very careful about that if we want to be on the path of really true freedom. Because as long as we believe that particular external thing makes me happy, it's very, very sad form of enslavement, and there is no much freedom there. But if we understand that we are the source of our fulfillment, then we can really claim our freedom and really liberation. Okay, verse number 63. רבי יוסי אמר, כל חד הוסיף לחברי, וחליל קולה דעבדה, ובגין כך חמרה, שרי חדוותה, בגין דחליל מגומיה. ולבטר ההדר לאתרי, ועציב ורגיז, ודאין דינה. Rabbi Yosef said, each lends to the other, and each includes both things, which means it talks about the left and the right. So the left is on the wine, the water is on the right. For the left, the wine includes that of the right, and the right includes that of the left. Therefore, wine, being from the left, begins with joy, for it contains water, which comes from the right. Afterwards, it reverts to its own nature, to the left, and becomes sad and furious, and sentences judgments, as is the nature of the left. So that speaks for itself. Verse number 64. רבי אבא אמר, מאתר חד נפקו יין ושמן ומים. מים ושמן לימינה, נטלי כהני וירתי לון, ושמן יתיר מקולה. דאי הוא חדוותה, שירותה וסיומה. דכתיב, כשמן הטוב על הראש, יורד על הזקן, זקן הארון. ויין לשמאלה, ירתי לבאי. להרמה קלה ולזמרה, ולה לשתוק. ולה לשתוק. דהה חמרה, לשתיק לעלמין, ושמן בחשאי הוא תדיר. Translation. Rabbi Abba said that wine, oil, and water issue from the same place. Water and oil, which are on the right, are taken by and are the lot of the priests. This is especially so with oil, namely chokhmah. The oil, or shemen in Hebrew, it's interesting enough that this portion is called shemini. Shmini means 8, but also it comes from the word shemen, oil. So the number 8 is a connection to it's a code name to Sfirat Chokhmah, okay? Which is joy, first and last, unlike the wine, which ends in sadness. As it is written, it is like the precious ointment upon the head, running down the beard of Aaron. Wine, which is on the left, is inherited by the Levites, so that they may raise their voices in song and not be silent. For wine is never silent, and oil is always noiseless. So in other words, the property of wine, it creates some kind of excitement and noise and sound, but oil is quiet. So that's why they anoint people with oil. But you know that oil also have other secrets why they don't anoint people with water. Oil have to be produced at a certain process when there's extraction from something, like when you produce the anoint from the olive oil, for example. So there is a whole, we spoke about this previously, but there's a whole spiritual process that happens that extracts that quality that we call the oil. How are we doing with the time, man?
9:30.
9:30. Yeah, we're going to end a little bit earlier today. 65. מה בין היי להי, אלא השמן דאי הוא בחשאי בלחישות אדיר, עתי מסתרה דמחשבה, דאי הוא בלחישות אדיר ולא השתמה, והוא בחשאי ועל דהו מימינה, ויין דאי הוא לארמה קלה, ולא שתיק לעלמין, עתי מסתרה דאימה, וירטין לבאי לסתר שמאלה, וקיימה לזמרה לארמה קלה, וקיימה בדינה, ובגין כך כתיב, ועל פיהם יהיה כל ריב וכל נגע. He asks, what is the difference between oil and wine? He answers that oil is always in secret and noiseless and comes from the side of the thought, which is chokhmah, which is always silent and unheard, as the thought is unrevealed. Therefore, the oil comes from the right side. Wine is for raising the voice and is never silent, for the one who is drunk cannot be silent. It comes from the side of Ima, which means mother, namely the left side of Binah. And the Levites, who are on the left, receive it for singing and raising their voices, and are in the aspect of judgment. Therefore it is written, and by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And although it is slated about the priests, it is written, the priests, the sons of Levi, which indicates that because they are from the side of the Levites, by the word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. Continue, verse number 66. בגין כך כהנה כדיעו למקדשה למפלח פולחנה. אסיר לאלה משתה חמרה, דהה ובדוי בחשאי עינון, ובחשאי עתן והתכוון, וזיווג למאן דזיווג, ונגיד ברכן לעלמין כל הוא, וחולה בחשאי ועובדוי כל הוא ברזה. וחמרה מגלה רזין הוא, דהה כל עובדוי לארמה קלה כאם. Therefore, when a priest enters the sanctuary to perform a divine service, he is not allowed to drink wine, for all his actions are performed in silence. He concentrates on the unisons in silence, joins whom he should join, namely male and female, which are what we call the Abba and Ima. And he obtains blessings for all the worlds. And everything is done in silence, for all the actions are done in secret. Therefore, he is forbidden to drink wine because it reveals a secret. For when wine comes in, a secret goes out. And it encourages the raising of the voice. So obviously there's not just talking about drinking or not drinking wine, but what explains that when we want to be effective priests or effective change makers or forces of influence in this reality, we want to maintain a certain purity of our connection. You know, we said earlier we want to be the own source of our joy. We want to maintain a direct connection, not a connection that might divert us from being aligned and to be clear. The clarity is very, very important. So that's why the right side is represented by the priests, because we draw a certain positive influence into this reality. So let's go further. Anybody have questions online, comments, observations?
No.
94. תורה שבעל פה, תורה אחרה דקיימה על פה. מן איהו פה, דהו דעת, דאיהו פה דספר וכתיבה, ותורה דה היא תורה אחרה, דקרי תורה שבעל פה, דאיהי קיימה על ההוא פה, דאיהי תורה שבכתב. בגין כך הסתליק משה בחולה, על כל שאר נביאי מהמנה, דכתיב ואתנה לך דייקה. We learned that the Torah is the written law, Zeir and Pin, what we call the upper six sefirot, and the commandments of the oral Torah are the Malchut. Okay? So let's see the translation. The oral Torah, which is Malchut, is another Torah which is kept and maintained orally by the mouth, by speaking. Who is the mouth? It is the Da'at, knowledge in Hebrew, namely Zeir and Pin, which reconciles Chokhmah and Binah, the mouth of the book and the writing, which are Chokhmah and Binah. For Da'at is Zeir and Pin. It reconciles and reveals Chokhmah and Binah, the secret of a book and of writing, as the mouth of a man reveals what is hidden in his mind. The Torah is different from the written Torah, and it is called the oral Torah, which is kept and maintained by literally the mouth of the speaking, what we know, the abracadabra, I create what I speak. Of that Torah which is called the written Torah, which is Zeir and Pin. Malchut is maintained by Zeir and Pin, as is known, therefore it is called the oral Torah. Therefore Moshe was elevated above all other faithful prophets, as it is written, and I will give you especially to him, excluding the other prophets. For Moshe is the chariot of the Da'at, from which issues the oral Torah. We know Moshe is the code name for Neshama, our soul. And what it explains that what we use, the power of the speech that we use, it have to be aligned with what kind of thought that we have. And when we connect that to what we learned previously, our thoughts and our desires are aligned with what we identify as the I. Okay? Moshe, we talks about his elevation to higher Sefirot because he aligned with self much way beyond what most of us as human beings we are identifying ourselves, beyond his physical garment, his social status, etc. All those things he saw from a much higher perspective. And what this verse is teaching us, we can all attain that elevation when we expand what we identify as the I. It's always the I in relationship to the whole. Okay, so that's very powerful realization and a reminder that we can all constantly elevate what we identify what we call the I. Okay. 95, 96. כתיב הגו סיגים מכסף ויצא לצורף כלי הגו רשע לפני מלך ויקון בחסד כסאו. תחזה בשעתה דאסגיהו חייבים בעלמה קורסיה דמלכה קדישה תקנת בדינה והשתאבת בדינה ושהובוי וקדין עלמה ובשעתה דהתעברו חייביה מעלמה כדין ויקון בחסד כסאו בחסד ולה בדינה מים משמע. It is written, take away dross from the silver and a vessel emerges for the refiner. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness. Come and behold, when the wicked becomes numerous in the world, the throne of the holy king, which is Malchut, is established in judgment, and is drawn by judgment. Its flames burn the world, but when the wicked are removed from the world, then his throne shall be established in righteousness, the right column, and not in judgment. He asks, what does this mean, in righteousness and not in judgment? And I'm going to continue. משמע דעלמא תתאה תליה בעלמא אילאה ועלמא אילאה לפום ארכי דעלמא תתאה ויקון בחסד כסאו מן דבעי לברכה ולעדכנה קורסיה בחסד ולא בדינה מהי משמע דחד עייל כהנה ללוי מקדשה דייעול בחסד דאיהו מיה ולה ייעול ביין דשתה דאיהו גבורה ייעול במיה ולה ייעול בחמרה. Translation. He answers, the meaning is that the lower world, which is Malchut or physicality, depends on the upper world, which is Zeir and Pin, and the supernal world transfers to the lower world according to the ways of the lower world. And who occupies the lower world? We, humans, we live in the lower world. Therefore, his throne shall be established in righteousness. In Hebrew, chesed means righteousness or mercy. For he or she who desires to bless this reality and to establish the kingdom of the throne of the kingdom, which is the lower world, shall establish it with chesed and not with judgment. In other words, if you want to change this world, people say they want to make. I saw this cartoon. This guy stands on the podium. He says, "Who wants to change?" And everybody lift their hand. And then they ask, "And who wants to change?" Nobody lift their hand, right? So this cartoon it reflects so well how many people are really committed to make a change in their lives. And the change means that we actually have to become more force of mercy in this reality. Whether we see a person on the street and he's hungry, maybe we can offer buying food or maybe give him some money, or at least to ask him how they're doing. We have to act that way in this reality. Each and every one of us is an essential factor. In Kabbalah, there's a beautiful allegory that each and every one of us is like a seed of a sesame. So imagine there are two scales, one for judgment and one for mercy. And let's say the tip is, you can tip the scales just with one sesame. Who's going to be that sesame? You could be that sesame. I could be, anybody could be that. Which means each and every one of us have the power to tip the scales to the right, to the mercy, to the compassion, to the good deeds. So that's why it's so important how we act in this reality. As we're going to learn, it's also what we say. It's also very important when we want to get there. So. Verse number 99. רבי אבא פתח ואמר, מי האיש החפץ חיים וגומר, נצור לשונך מרע וגומר, סור מרע וגומר, וכתיב שומר פיו ולשונו וגומר. מי האיש החפץ חיים, מן חיים, אלא אילן חיים דיקרון על מה דעתי, וחיים תמן שריין, ועל דעת הנינן, עץ חיים, היא אילנה מאינון חיים, אילנה דאתנתה באינון חיים, ועד מי האיש החפץ חיים, כתיב. Translation. Rabbi Abba opened a discussion, saying, who is the man that desires life and loves many days? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking guile, from Tehillim. It is also written, he who guards his mouth and his tongue keeps his soul from troubles. Who is the man that desires life? What life? It refers to the life which is called the world to come, Olam Haba, which is Binah. It doesn't mean the afterlife, it means the reality beyond, it's a frequency beyond this physical reality, where life rests. Therefore, we have learned that the tree of life is a tree, which is Zeir Anpin, issuing from this life, which is the light of Binah, meaning that this tree was planted in that life of which is written, who is the man that desires life? It talks about, plain and simple, if you desire life, you have to be very careful what comes out of your mouth. My teacher said many times that was quoting that our tongue is more mighty than the sword, or the pen is more mighty. Like the words that we use are very, very, very powerful. That's why Pesach means Pesach, speaking mouth. That's the meaning of Pesach. And what we do the Seder, which means order, and we read the Haggadah. Haggadah means lehagid, to say things. It's a time for us to reprogram our entire year by using words and cleansing energy and choosing certain awareness that we use our mouth to say good things. And if we cannot say something good, just be quiet, not saying anything. If the thoughts are coming to us are very negative, at least we can be quiet. And that also pertains to gossip. We speak about it many times, not even to listen to gossip. Because gossip is a very, very dangerous form of slander. And it actually hurts people, and it hurts those who speak, and it hurts those who listen to that as well. So it's a reminder to be very, very careful what we say and to what expose us and what we listen. Again, it comes to freedom. We choose what we listen to and who we listen to. When you know that you are choosing who you listen to, it's a very, very powerful merit to understand how that impacts you. So let's move to verse number 111. ותחזה כל מן דאכיל מעינון מאכלי דאסירי יתדבק בסתרה אחרה וגעיל נפשי וגרמי ורוח מסעב שריה עלי ואחזה גרמי דלת לי חולקה באלהה אילאה ולעתי מסתרי ולה יתדבק בי ואי פוק הכי מהי עלמה אחידן בי כל עינון דאחידן בסתר דמסעבה ומסעבין לי ודיינין לי כברנש דאיהו געלה דמערי געלה, בהי עלמא וגעלה בעלמא דעתי. Translation. Come and behold, whoever eats of these unclean foods cleaves to the other side and defiles his body and soul. The unclean spirit rests upon him, and he shows that he has no portion in the highest one, nor does he come from his side, nor does he cleave to him. If he departs from this world in such a state, he will be seized by all those who are grasped by the unclean side, and he will be defiled by them. Moreover, he is judged as a man spurned by his master, spurned is in this world and in the world to come. We many times read in the Zohar about the importance of what we put inside our body, not just energetically, but also physically. We spoke about it, I think previously or 2 weeks ago, about how certain foods, they create parasites in our body. The Zohar speaks about it too, 2,000 years ago. So we want to be very aware of what we put inside our body, because it affects the quality of our thoughts. We know that if a person drinks alcohol, get drunk, the quality of the thoughts, there's very little restriction that's happening.
There is no restriction.
Some people don't even have a restriction. So it's a very, very dangerous place to be, that when we have even freedom to choose our actions and to be guarding what we do and what we say. So it also pertains to food. So being very conscious of what we eat. And I always talk about, in this class, about the importance of maintaining plant-based nutrition, because it minimizes the acidity in our body. Acidity creates parasites. So there you go. And the Zohar talks about it as well. So let's read the last one. 1:14. What time is it?
10 to 10.
Okay, 10 to 10. 1:14. רבי יוסי פתח ואמר, כל עמל האדם לפיהו וגומר, הסתכלנה במילי דשלמה מלכה, וכולהו אחידן בחוכמה. הילאה. כל עמל האדם לפיהו, היקרא בשעתה דדיינין לי לברנש בהוא אלמד כתיב. כל ההוא דינה, וכל מאי דסביל בהוא אלמה, ונקמין מיני נקמתה דאלמה, לפיהו. בגין פיהו דלה נתיר לי, וסעיב לי לנפשי, ולה יתדבק בסתרה דחיי, בסתרה דימינה. וגם הנפש לא תמלא. לא תשתלים דינהה לעלם ולעלמי אלומין. דה לא תמלא, לא תשתלים לסלקה לאתראה לעלמין, בגין דהה הסתאבד והתדבקת בסתרה אחרה. Translation. Rabbi Yosef opened a discussion with the verse, all the labor of a man is for his mouth. From Kohelet. I have observed, Kohelet was written by King Solomon. I have observed that those words of King Solomon are full of supernal wisdom, and the words, the labor of a man is for his mouth, allude to the time when man is sentenced for all these accusations against him and to everything he undergoes in that world. The revenge of the world is exacted upon him, and all this is because of his mouth, which he did not guard. Through it, he defiles his soul by not cleaving to the right side of life. Yet, the appetite, literally in Hebrew, soul, is not filled, not satiated, meaning that the judgment of his soul will never be completed. When we talk about the judgment, or it talks about there's not reaching the purpose or the potential of the soul. Also, is not filled means it will never be completed to ascend to its place, since it is defiled and attached to the other side. So the Zohar is clearly again explaining the importance of being mindful what we say. And the help we're getting when we read those words of the Zohar, or we study that, we are constantly cleaning maybe things we did in the past, in past life, or past in this lifetime. It helps us to purify. The Zohar is a very powerful tool of cleansing energy. So I highly recommend you to even listen to this lecture again and listen to these words, and if you can read, even better. So thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your being with us, for your patience and your interest. And you're more than welcome to support. It really helps us to continue what we do, continue this class, to have those beautiful locations. We can continue to provide this teaching for everybody. You can make a donation at the Mount Shasta Zohar group page on Facebook. We have a donate button, so I highly advise you to do so if you believe and you get benefit from this teaching. So thank you so much, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Baruch.
You're welcome.